thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Happy to be here, Kate, once again.
Yes, and it's been a busy conference day. You just sat down with Michael Saylor inside.
Yes, I did.
I want to talk about Bitcoin. We'll focus this conversation on Bitcoin and crypto. We'll talk about some of the macro stuff as well.
Yeah.
You've really become known for your contrarian views when it comes to equities. Is Bitcoin a contrarian investment at this point, or are you feeling like it's becoming more mainstream?
Well, we were the first public asset manager to gain exposure to Bitcoin in 2015 when it was $250. I think today it's $44,000, and we think it's just begun. But I don't think most institutional investors are positioned the way they ultimately will be. A lot of retail has really led the charge here. They, like with our other funds, the retail investor, the individual investor, those people with one foot in the new world, they get what we do. They get Bitcoin. So I think institutions are coming along slowly.
Well, one of the undercurrents of this conversation too is the Fed and central banks.
Yes.
How does that affect Bitcoin and prices?
Well, again, many people think monetary policies around the world have been unhinged, especially since 08, 09. And they're seeing extreme increases in the monetary base, various monetary bases around the world. So Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. Now, that will turn into inflation if the reserves on central bank balance sheets, which are the kindling for inflation, if they're lit. And that means if bank loans go crazy to the upside. We're seeing a share shift when it comes to loans into DeFi. So, there's a big, I think the banks have a big problem. They're losing talent to crypto, so they're having to raise wages to attract talent. And they're losing business to DeFi. Lending and saving, a lot of it is taking place in DeFi right now.
I do want to ask you about regulation as well. Janet Yellen gave a speech about crypto earlier. We've seen some movement in Washington, D.C. when it comes to cryptocurrency, the executive order. What are you seeing as far as politics in Bitcoin and crypto? And is it bipartisan at this point?
Well, what we're seeing is 180 degrees different today than it was a year ago when Janet Yellen, it was roughly a year ago, Janet Yellen said, Bitcoin, environmental problems, illicit activity, money laundering, gambling, all of that. And she just, door shut. And I remember I was asked at the time, and I basically said, she hasn't studied it. She hasn't studied the technology, and she hasn't studied the instrument, the new asset class. Well, it seems like she's been boning up because, again, just the other day, she focused on Bitcoin and crypto generally as, we need to make sure and encourage financial innovation. The U.S. wants to lead, just as it has with many other innovation cycles. And I said to Yassine El-Mandra, our crypto analyst, I said, who's whispering in her ear? Because we began to hear other policymakers on both sides of the aisle talk in this way. And in talking to Michael Saylor earlier, he thinks it's Gary Gensler. Gary understands Bitcoin. He taught about it at MIT before he became chairman of the SEC, and he understands how profound this innovation is. First, global, private, meaning non-government, but it is open source, so public in that sense. Digital, rules-based monetary system ever. So it's a very big idea, and we do not want to be left behind.